Getting started with innovation is all about getting into the right mindset. We're going to briefly talk with you about some of the key elements that will assist you with getting into the right mindset. These hopefully will help you by being mindful of them and practicing them on a daily basis. These key elements will help you navigate the innovation pathway faster and happier. Innovation is a mindset game. If you want to be successful, it's important to grow and protect your mindset. I'm going to share with you some strategies to help you to improve a growth mindset. And some of these include breaking your habits on a regular basis. And when I say that, I don't mean all of your habits. I don't even mean for you to judge whether they're good or bad habits. I just mean having short bursts where you break one or two habits for a short amount of time. And that short amount of time might be for a fortnight or a week or a month. Doing this helps you to think differently, and it changes your neural pathways in your brain, and it helps you to be more creative and to come up with different solutions. And to start this process, think of a habit you do every day. And I'm asking for you to change it up and to give yourself a challenge. For example, what I do, it's a thing I do for the first 2 weeks of every month. I will select something in my diet that will disrupt my dietary patterns, that I will give up for 2 weeks. And I change it every month. This week, I'm going through giving up wheat for 2 weeks. Last month, I gave up sugar for the first 2 weeks of the month. The month before that, I gave up dairy. The month before that, I gave up grains. The month before that, I gave up chocolate. And the list goes on, and it's up to you to decide. The idea is to disrupt your patterns. And the reason I do this is it helps me to find new solutions on what I'm going to eat, whether that be for breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, etc. And it helps me to move me towards my goals. And it also helps me to try new products and to think of different ways that I can still try and achieve my goals, but it allows me to, I guess, rethink the way that I do things. For an example, when I did the No Dairy Challenge, I thought this was going to be so hard. I was terrified, to be honest. And I tried soy milk and almond milk and coconut milk and oat milk and I don't know what else milk. But I discovered that I did actually enjoy the oat milk. And I discovered not only did I enjoy the oat milk, I noticed the gut benefits of the oat milk. And while I couldn't find oat milk substitutes for yogurt, because I normally have yogurt with my breakfast, and I did discover that I preferred coconut yogurt for my breakfast. So I did discover some alternatives, and this helps me to introduce new products into my diet. And so now what I do is every now and again I'll now frequently buy normal milk, plus I'll also buy oat milk, and I'll interchange between the two in my normal everyday habits. So it's introduced me to new ways of thinking, and it helps me to keep growing my mindset and to keep it progressing so that I can create new neural pathways in my brain. Being curious. Getting started with innovation asks of you to open yourself, to listen and to learn from other people's experiences. It asks you to be curious about how things work, what people think and feel and do, and why people behave in a particular way, and often very different to you. Being curious helps you to learn to ask more questions, and I'm going to put up a challenge to you to help you to grow your mindset, and is to think of a different question that you can ask somebody about their set of circumstances. Be curious, learn about others. You can start with your team. Ask them something that you don't know about them and be curious. I believe being curious helps us to be humble. It helps us to realize that we're all different, and that's a great thing. It helps us to learn and to think differently, and above all, it helps us to enhance our growth mindset. Being people-centric is innovation at its very core, because innovation at its very core is about human betterment. We innovate to improve things for people and to help us to improve our set of circumstances, whatever they are. It might be to improve our workflows, to reduce complexity within our systems so that we can work happier without those little frustrations. It could be about getting things done at speed. It could be about improving our confidence by developing a way that makes us feel more confident and happier. We solve problems for our customers because we want to help them. And as we keep helping our customers, we find that they keep coming back. It's a win-win situation. We innovate for people, with people. Often we strive to become more certain about things and to avoid uncertainty. I actually want to challenge that convention, because I believe when we embrace uncertainty, we learn the power, or we can if we're open to learning, that uncertainty brings to the innovation process. When we go through the innovation process, we'll start with an idea. We have an idea that we start to investigate. We'll learn about that idea. We'll start to work out what elements are symptoms, what elements are problem. And we'll start to, as we go through that learning process, identify a problem that actually needs solving. And it helps us to be, I guess, a little more certain about where we want to go. And when we do that, we develop the vision board. And then we go through the process of being uncertain again, because we're still not sure how we're going to get there. We kind of know where we want to go. We're not really sure how we're going to get there, what direction we're going to get to go there. And through uncertainty, it helps us to find solutions. Uncertainty provides us with the power to question, to be curious, to think outside the box, to flex our creative muscle, to search for the answers. And all of these help us to be more creative. They help us to grow and to learn. So my advice is to embrace uncertainty. As we go through innovation, we're going to, I don't like to use the word mistakes because it has such negative connotations, but the reality is I'm not frightened of mistakes, because it's through mistakes we learn. And as we go through the learning journey, we're going to learn from our mistakes, our failures, and our missteps. We're not going to get it right probably much of the time. And it's about being okay with that, because when we're going through innovation and when we're learning something new, we're going to make a lot of missteps. We're going to try things out, and some of those things will work and many won't. The reality is, when we're going through innovation, we're on a learning pathway. Innovation is about learning what not to do just as much as it is about learning what to do. Both learnings are equally as important in my book. I think what's more important is understanding that we don't want to be afraid of missteps or failures or making mistakes, because these things, being afraid, can actually hinder our progress in moving forward. And when people do have hiccups and make mistakes or whatever, that's okay. They need to feel safe that it's okay to do that, because it's all part of the learning process. So my advice is, when those things happen, ask of your team and of yourself, what can I learn from this? Because we don't want to throw caution into the wind and act and be carefree as if it's okay to just make mistakes and whatever, because that would be silly. The reality is that too many ideas get stuck because we beat ourselves up over mistakes or missteps. Instead of going or asking the question, what can I learn from this, or what can we learn from this, so that we can move forward with the learning in our brain. As we learn from mistakes, that helps us to move forward faster and happier along the innovation pathway through to implementation. Another way that we learn through the innovation process is to create reflection time. And I'm a huge believer of creating reflection time. People, I argue, do it on a daily basis, late in the afternoon, or do it on a weekly basis, or a monthly basis, or a quarterly basis. Or I would argue at the end of each session that you go through along the innovation process. You want to learn and grow from our mistakes, as well as learn and grow from those things that worked really well in the innovation process. And to do this, it's important to build reflection time into our innovation practices. We have a few different reflection, feedback, and retrospective canvases to help you improve reflection time practices as you go through the innovation journey. Some people like to mix it up and use a few different practices. Other people like to merge canvases together. So I actually saw a client yesterday, and she merged the action framework canvas with the sailboat retrospective canvas, and came up with her own reflection canvas that she actually uses on a daily basis at the end of her workday. And I have to say, I thought it was absolutely fantastic. She found that doing this actually helped their team, because what she did was she liked elements of both canvases and she put them together. Reflecting on our thinking and our feelings and our actions is really important, because these can have an impact on how we view the world, on how people perceive us, on how we perceive others, and the assumptions that we make as we progress forward on our innovation journey. So please create reflection time in your innovation process.